Hi everybody, welcome to the third and the final part of Watercolors with Cookie. I really hope that you have liked the first and the second part, and according to the response that I've gotten, I am really grateful and thankful to you all for taking out time to watch the video and covering whatever I've told you about watercolors and understanding it, and also sending me a lot of responses and a lot of DMs with trying out the techniques that I have talked about. In this part, we'll be talking about, as I mentioned before, painting. We'll be doing a painting or a mini project, as you call it, and it'll be really easy and basic. And I'll guide you step by step through the process of the painting, so that even if you're trying your hands on watercolors for the first time, you can go about it really easily. Let's go ahead. And please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and also press the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a video on YouTube.
First up, we arrange our materials together. We have the sheet here. I'm using the Bauhong 300 GSM sheet that I spoke about in the first part. And then we have the tape, masking tape. I'm using this scotch tape because I didn't have masking tape available right now, so I'll be using the scotch tape to stick out the sheet. Let me show you how I'll be doing that. I'll be fast forwarding the process so that you understand and it saves up time. So the taping has been done. I'll be taking the Camel watercolor cakes. They are the most basic paints that I have right now, and I'll be making the painting with them. Then I have the water and mixing palette and a cloth and the brushes, everything that I discussed about in the previous parts of the series. So we'll be using more of the blues and the blacks and a bit of green and white in the painting that we'll be making today. So let's get started. I'll be first wetting the whole sheet using the mop brush from Brustro. This is in size 8. I'm just gonna take water and spread it all around on the sheet, and since this is a 300 GSM sheet, it'll take the water well, it will absorb it well. Now, as previously discussed, I already wet the paints and I let them desolidify, and now I'm picking up some light blue and I'll be adding some of the ultramarine blue in it, which is the top one. But first I'll be moving from light to dark, so I'll be just taking light blue. So I'm slowly adding the effect of the sky using the light blue and making it go from the middle to the corners of the sheet. Now I'm taking a darker shade of blue and blending it with the light blue. The sheet is wet, so that is why the colors are blending seamlessly. They are blending well with each other. And following this process, I'll blend the darker shade of blue in this shade of blue. This is a fast forwarded snippet, but I'm slowly adding the dark shades and increasing the intensity of the blue. Like in the corner, I'm adding more of it and it is slowly blending into the light hue of blue. And the thing that I'm taking care of is to see whether the sheet is wet or not, because that's what helps in properly blending the shades together and giving a seamless blend. So as I mentioned previously also, my palette is pretty old. That's why my shades have almost finished, and using the brush in this kind of pan damages the brush if not used properly. So that is also one thing that we need to take care of. Now I'm slowly adding the blue again and again to increase its intensity. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is that the medium we are using is watercolors, right? So they do not appear as vibrant when dry as they do when they are wet. So currently the blues are looking all highlighted and up front, but when they'll dry, they'll go back to a lower intensive level and that is why I am using the Mijello paints here to add another shade of blue. I have put the paints in half pans and I am picking up the color and slowly adding the darker shade on the edges to give a better depth to the painting and to increase the details of the galaxy sky that I'm trying to make here. So the previous blue that I used was the Prussian blue, and these are the Mijello Mission gold watercolors that come in the set of 12. And after that, now I'm currently adding the ultramarine deep blue. All these shades will help me build up a better picture of the sky and help me in giving it a more realistic look. After this, I'll be adding black to give the final touch of the dark colors in the sky. I'm building up the blues to give the sky a more realistic look, and the key here is to blend. If the blending is done well, then the painting tends to look more beautiful and more realistic. Now, as you can see, I am blending the white patch with the light blue properly to give it the proper effect of the galaxy that I need to show here. And I'm slowly blending all the colors together again and again so that the finish comes out well. Along with that, I am adding the necessary colors that I want to, like suppose I'm here again adding the ultramarine deep blue to increase the depth and give it more detailing, and again blending it with the lighter shades. This is all just helping me in increasing the intensity of the paints, as I mentioned before. Now the white patch that we left here, I am using up the lifting technique. I took the damp brush and I'm picking up the color to give it a more natural finish. So after our blues are added, we'll just let it dry because we have to make the foreground then. And there are two ways or two methods that you can use to dry the whole painting. First is to just naturally let it dry and leave it alone for a while, or you can take a hair dryer or a blow dryer and just blow it on the whole sheet to dry it off. I personally prefer the self-drying part, and here we have the sheet which is dry, and I'm blending some of the patches of blue that I need that I think need more blending. I'm just taking water and simply blending them together. After doing so, we'll be moving on to the mountains that will be a part of the foreground. I am taking the colors blue, darkest blue of the camel palette, white and black. So it is like a bluish gray shade, and we'll be using that to make the mountains. Just clearly gliding along. You can even make the guidelines using a pencil, but make sure that the pencil marks are really light because they usually don't go away, or the watercolors are not able to cover them properly. Now after making this, while the mountain is still wet, I give it a darker touch by adding more black to the bluish gray shade that we made. Moving on to the small river that we'll be making in the foreground, we'll just take the shade of blue and quickly pick it up so that it just leaves a tinge of the blue, and then we'll be making the waves in it with the darker shade of blue. And I'm doing so by taking a thin long brush with the long bristles to give the slight line effect of the waves in a moonlight scene. Moving on to the most important part of the foreground, which are the trees or the pines, and I've just taken a simple black and I am slowly and steadily making the branches of the pine trees and slowly and steadily giving them the shape to make them as natural as possible. You can see that first I am starting from the top. I'm randomly making the leaves. There's no such technique involved in the same. I'm just randomly throwing around the leaves that make it look more natural and real. Bit by bit, I am going down the slope by constructing more and more trees. They have to be of various shapes and sizes because naturally no tree is the same. So I am making them thin and thick according to whatever I feel like. For example, this one's a taller one and has different orientation of the branches and the leaves. I go on with the similar pattern of making the trees, and here I am making the slope with the plain black color. It will be extended till the end. Now I'm blending the color of the mountain with the white space which is left, because when we'll draw the trees we don't want the background of the trees to be white. We want it to look as natural as possible. And here I've covered the space with grey, and that is why I'm making the trees now. I'm slowly and steadily adding them, and they've gotten smaller in size. After that, I'm adding the foreground trees which are there in the frontal part, and that's why bigger than the other trees. After completing the foreground part with the black trees, I now move on to small little misty pines on the mountain. I'm just simply picking up the ultramarine deep blue, and I am making small little trees on the base of the mountain just to give an effect of the trees present there. The last and the final part would be adding the stars. This is my favorite part. I am taking the Ecoline liquid watercolor here because my white, as you can see in the palette, is finished. So I'm just taking the white color, and I have covered the necessary black part using the tissue, and I am simply using the splatter technique. In case you do not remember it, you can revise it and check it out in the second part of the video. I will link it in the bio. Oh sorry, we have a description box here. So this is pretty easy. I am very slowly splattering the stars around to give it more detail. I am using this brush and adding some bigger stars. The next step after this will be peeling off the tape. In case the tape peel does not come off easily, you can just use a blow dryer against it and you'll be good to go. So this is our little piece that we have ended up making. I really hope you all liked watching it and you will try it. Please share your results with me in case you try your hand on this, and thank you for watching.